All right, guys, it looks like we are live. Welcome back to the 13th edition of WMMA Scene Report, but the first of 2019. Happy New Year, guys. So, big weekend of MMA for, we'll say 3 major events, 4 events total, really, featuring women's mixed martial arts fights. I'm going to be going over all of them, so not really too many big fight announcements this past week that I can really think of. So we'll just be going over the fight results, and then we're going to go really break down each fight as best as we can as we go. So we'll start with really probably the biggest event, but it was first in the timeline. So Saturday night was UFC 232. On the prelims, we had featherweight. Megan Anderson defeated Kat Zingano by TKO due to eye injury, minute and 1 second of round 1. And then, of course, we had the featherweight championship. Amanda Nunes, bantamweight champ, defeated featherweight champ Christian Cyborg Justino by TKO due to punches at 51 seconds of round 1. Amanda Nunes became the first woman to hold 2 titles in the UFC at once. Moving on to Rizin. New Year's Eve in the morning, if you're stateside. Early morning. So their first show, they had what would have been a morning or afternoon show in Japan for them. It was called Heisei's Last Yaranoka. First fight, super atomweight fight. Ai Shimizu defeated Nanaka Kawamura by TKO due to punches from mount, 3 minutes and 1 second of round 1. And then the only other excuse me. Then the only other women's bout of that event at 127 pounds, Kana Watanabe defeated Shizuka Sugiyama by KO from right hook at 11 seconds, round 1 of 3. Now we're going to go into that later, and I will be posting. Yeah, we're going to go into that later because there was some bullshit going on in that fight. Then moving on to Rizin 14, the New Year's Eve. The true New Year's Eve event, which was of course headlined by that farcical exhibition between Floyd Mayweather and Tension. So the what was supposed to have been the first fight of this card was Reina versus some French girl, and that fight got canceled. Reina got sick during her weight cut, had to be taken to the hospital for dehydration. So what would have been the third fight became the second fight. Justina Zafia Haba had a successful professional debut fight. She defeated Shinju Nozawa Eclair due to submission sleeper choke at 3 minutes and 41 seconds, round 2. That was in flyweight division. Later on, one of the fights I didn't get to see, haven't seen yet. At 112 pounds, Miyu Yamamoto defeated Mika Nagano by unanimous decision. Freak show fight, heavyweights, 226 pounds. Gabby Garcia defeated Barbara Nepomuceno by key lock submission, 2 minutes 35 seconds of round 1. And then the feature bout of the night, super atomweight championship fight. Ayaka Hamasaki, the challenger, defeated champion Kana Asakura by submission due to armbar at 4 minutes 33 seconds, round 2 of 3. And that was it for the women over in Japan. And then, of course, the final event of, the New Year's weekend, New Year's Eve, stateside. PFL number 11, or the championships, 155 pounds lightweight division. Kayla Harrison defeated Moriel Charneski by TKO due to ground and pound at 3 minutes 39 seconds. So now that we're going to switch over the fight picture for a second here, we're going to switch to this one, not that one. Okay, picture's not showing. It should be up though. Rizin Heisei's last Yaranoka. So Ai Shimizu defeated Naoka Kawamura in the super atomweight division. Fight looked like it was going to be competitive at first. First of all, if you haven't seen this fight, watch it. I think like I'm not always into the big entrances, and I think Rizin overdoes the production a little bit. But it is New Year's Eve, so it's a special event. Naoka Kawamura came out. She's a member of some like pop idol group thing. Her entire group came out, lined up the entry ramp, and started performing to one of their songs. Naoka came out. She had her Jason mask on and the light up chainsaw. She was waving it around at first, and then she made her way down. And of course, the whole time she's making her entrance, her group's dancing and performing to one of their songs. So that alone is worth checking out. As far as the fight goes, I thought Kawamura was actually getting the better of the striking game due to Ai Shimizu deciding to clinch to stop the strikes and then take her down early. And then from there, Ai was able to really just take over. She controlled Kawamura on the ground slowly. Excuse me, sorry guys, I have a cold. She slowly controlled Kawamura as she made her way eventually to the mount, got to the mount, and just started raining some really nice, really hard, strong punches onto Kawamura, so the ref eventually stopped it. Hopefully, Rizin brings both of those fighters back. You know, their super atomweight division's really thin. Granted, that was Ai's first professional fight. That wasn't an exhibition or anything. Kawamura dropped to 2-3. She had basically begged the Rizin CEO at the last Deep Jewels event to put her on. So he put her on less than a month after her last fight, where she got a win. Hopefully they bring her back. I think Naoka Kawamura especially is really, she's like made for Rizin. She's got the whole idol gimmick thing going on, and they love all that extra stuff that has nothing to do with fighting. Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to get a cough drop. Okay, so moving along, we have what I'm going to call the Yaranoka screw job. If you're a pro wrestling fan at all, you've probably heard of the Montreal screw job, where Bret Hart got screwed out of the title by Vince McMahon and the WWF. If you're not familiar with it, don't worry. I'm sure you know what a screw job is. Kana Watanabe versus Shizuka Sugiyama, 11-second knockout. As soon as Sugiyama eats 2 right hands to the face, as she's backing up Watanabe into the corner, Sugiyama drops to her back, starts getting her legs up for defense, but the ref jumps in from like 5 feet away, jumps on top of Sugiyama, starts waving it off immediately, and a bell rings. And Sugiyama is immediately protesting, like, what the hell is going on, you know? She gets up, and she's like screaming. Like, what the hell is going on, you know? Even, like, Watanabe stopped celebrating when she was like, ooh, like, what is going on? Like, was that stoppage that early? Yeah, it was. Whether it's not it's a screw job, I can't say for sure. I'm pretty convinced, though. You guys would have to let me know. But I'm pretty sure it was. So moving along to Rizin 14. So Justina Zofia Haba versus Shinju Nozawa Leclerc. So this is one of those moments where you bring in an unknown fighter to what you hope would be to make one of your chosen promotional darlings, help get them over, help make them look good for their next fight, before their next fight or something, because MMA, it really is connected to pro wrestling, and whether people like to admit it or not, especially over in Japan, where they're very tied. I mean, Rizin is the successor of Pride, the true successor of Pride, and Pride was started with pro wrestling. So really, Haba was brought in as like a gift. She's supposed to be a gift for Nozawa Leclerc. Shinju's mom is a celebrity in Japan. She's a famous actress. I don't know if it's from movies or TV, but they want to build her up. Fortunately, they haven't been able to do it as much as they wanted to because Shinju was injured a lot this year. And bring that in a little closer. So, but this totally went the wrong way. Haba did very well on the ground, a lot stronger than anyone probably thought she would. Really battered Shinju. There's pictures of her from, I think, yesterday, and her left eye is still swollen shut. And got the submission. It was a pretty good fight, though. It was very entertaining, fun to watch. But man, Shinju just got totally outclassed. It's back to the drawing board for her. Now, before I go on, I'm going to switch this picture up real quick. Okay, so there's the Rizin 14 poster. So Shinju falls to 2-1. Justina Haba, the Polish fighter, climbs to 1-0. Moving up to the next women's fight, Miyu Yamamoto defeated Mika Nagano by unanimous decision. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch this fight yet. Haven't had the time. I am working on doing review videos for all the Rizin fights. I have 2 of them completed. I just got to upload them. I'll work on the rest. The other fight I missed was Gabby Garcia versus Barbara Nepomuceno. Defeated her by key lock submission, 2 minutes 35 seconds of round 1. And then the final women's bout of the evening, Super Atomweight Championship. Ayaka Hamasaki defeated Kana Asakura. Now, this fight was being built up by a lot of people as this fight will decide who is the #1 atomweight in the world. People are, because Ayaka Hamasaki, she's the former Deep Jewels champ, former Invicta champ, who relinquished the title. And Kana Asakura is supposed to be the super prospect or uber prospect out of Japan. All I can say is this. Hamasaki made Asakura look like a rank amateur in there. From the striking to like 90% of the ground game, it was all Ayaka. I mean, Asakura just could not get any of her game really going in this fight. And so congrats to Hamasaki. I mean, I once called her over the hill, or possibly over the hill. Whether that's true or not, it's hard to say with this fight. Asakura, I think she is a legit prospect. I don't think she's like the super prospect that some people are calling her. I will still make the argument that her resume is still pretty darn weak. I mean, if your biggest names are So let's see. Her biggest names are Yasuko Tamada, who's like in her her 40s. Saori Ishioka, who's a journeywoman. Maria Oliveira, who is nobody. And 2 wins over Reina Kubota. That's really not a very strong resume. I mean, if those are your best wins, I mean, granted, she only has 3 losses out of 16 fights, but I mean, she's just not facing very good competition in Rizin. Whereas Hamasaki hasn't been facing her best fight in like what, 3 years was her toughest opponent was Alyssa Garcia, who was coming in on a losing streak. Mina Karobi, Deep Jewels champ. That was a good win for her. Although Karobi is also on a downslide. And then now Asakura. You know, it's just hard to say. Like, I don't want to sound too critical. I am a Hamasaki fan. I'm a fan of both of these girls. I just think that a lot of the hype around them is overblown. I think Asakura ran into a legit skilled fighter who took her places that very few others have. And Hamasaki's still a good fighter, even though she's like, what, 37 now? Check her age real quick here. As soon as Tapology wants to load. How old is she? She's 36. Okay. I was off by a year. Either way, you know, neither of these two are going to be challenged, I think, in Rizin. Rizin just does not have the roster. It does not have the allure that fighting in Japan doesn't have the same allure that it used to bring in top international talent. I think these two are both going to have to leave Japan to really challenge themselves, especially Asakura, who has a lot of growth to go, especially in the striking department. Now, she did come over to the U.S. to train before this fight, and she was training with alongside like Alimule McFarland, Liz Carmouche, and a bunch of them at I forget what the gym is called. I know there's also 10th Planet San Diego. And here's the thing. If you need to work on your ground game and your grappling, your submissions, that's a great gym to go to. But nobody from that gym is really known for their striking. None of those ladies out of there are really known for their striking. And that's Asakura's weakness. So she went to a gym and really just worked on what are already her strengths. And it still wasn't good enough against Hamasaki. Meanwhile, her striking hasn't improved, and she was getting beat up on the feet by Hamasaki, who Hamasaki herself is more of a ground specialist. But she's still very competent on the feet. So Asakura, she needs to work with a good boxing gym or kickboxing, Muay Thai gym. Maybe go to Thailand, work with some of the, like Tiger Muay Thai or AKA Thailand, or Phuket Top Team, one of those gyms. She just needs to work on her striking bad because it's still very basic. Now, granted, she has great takedowns, but eventually you're going to run into someone like Hamasaki who is going to be able to stop those takedowns or just not care because she knows she's better on the ground. So, that's Rizin, guys. Talk about PFL here. Kayla Harrison defeated Moriel Charneski by TKO due to ground and pound, round 1. Okay, Kayla Harrison defeated Moriel Charneski. 3 minutes, 39 seconds, round 1. Kayla Harrison doing the business again. No challenge whatsoever from Charneski. Harrison went forward almost immediately, threw her to the ground, and just took over from there. She tried a key lock at one point, couldn't get it. Was working from guard. Eventually, Chernesky turned over. Harris went belly down. Harrison just unloaded on the ground and pound and got the stoppage. So Harrison improves to 3-0. Chernesky fell to 3-5. I don't know who they're going to bring in to challenge Kayla Harrison at this point. They're planning to have a lightweight Grand Prix this year, like built around her, like they did with everyone. Excuse me, with all the other divisions. It'll be a mystery on who they fill it with. They could have Chernesky again. They could bring in Josette Cotton. I think they're going to have to bring in a lot of featherweights because, you know, lightweight is just a barren division. So who knows? Congrats to Kayla Harrison. Did a great job. She's just so athletic and brutally strong. No one's been able to deal with her on her feet because she just gets in there and takes them down that fast. So that's it for PFL. That was the only fight. We'll move on to UFC 232 in a second here. All right, UFC 232. So, first fight. Megan Anderson defeated Kat Zingano by TKO due to eye injury. Minute and 1 second of the first round. Kat just did not look good in this for the whole minute this fight lasted. She looked lost on the feet. She didn't even try to set up any takedowns, which should have been the key to victory, was getting Anderson to the ground. And she kept circling in the same direction to Anderson's power side, which was just dumb. I mean, even if Anderson's toe would not have landed and messed up, would not have gotten in Zingano's eye, Kat would have kept going into those kicks and into those punches all freaking night because she showed no real footwork. Just, I want to circle into the same thing. Had she maybe tried to get to the ground, I imagine she would have been able to, even with the size disadvantage. But she couldn't deal with Anderson's reach and range. Kat Zingano fell to 10-4. Anderson climbed to 8-3. No, I doubt Zingano fights at 145 again, especially with this loss. Anderson is now 1-1 in the UFC. But how long is the featherweight division going to be around, you know? Which brings us to the co-main event of that night. Featherweight championship between bantamweight champ Amanda Nunes and defending champ Chris Cyborg. Amanda Nunes just tore Cyborg apart in 51 seconds. Cyborg lasted a whole 3-4 seconds longer against Nunes than Rousey did. And when you look at the stats, I think Cyborg landed like 3 whole shots or 3 significant strikes. It just looked, I mean, she just looked bad in there. Nunes was able to knock her off balance with that low kick, which really started the action because she's able to start piecing together her punches. Cyborg just took all of her training, all the work she did with Jason Perillo over the last few years, threw it out the window, decided to become a stereotypical shoot-a-box brawler again, and she paid for it. She got knocked out. She got dropped like 3 times total. The first or second time, she tried to go for a weak takedown attempt that Nunes was able to just shuck her right off. And that last time, she hit her so hard, she spun around before she fell. I'll tell you what, Amanda Nunes hits like a freaking truck. She has cement in her hands, I think. There's no other way to explain it. And the fact that every other girl that Cyborg fought, and she rushed them the way she did Nunes, they'd have lost their composure. And that's what happens to everybody Cyborg fights. But Nunez was able to keep her composure. She wasn't afraid of Cyborg because she knew that her striking is just plain better and more accurate. And that's what really paid off. Cyborg was just looping punches. Nunez was striking straight down the middle. And every time she'd set up the left, she would follow it with the hard right. And that's what won her, was her, simple 1-2 combinations that knocked Cyborg out. So, let me tell you something. Nunez's victory celebration was something to behold because it was just so emotional. She was hugging Conan Silveira, her coach, like so hard, It was like a pinnacle of all the years that they've been working together. Nunez, had one belt around the waist, the other around the shoulder. It was really cool to see. She was just so happy. It was well-deserved victory. Cyborg, was pretty humble in defeat. Other than, carrying a pillow and mocking Rousey at the post-fight press conference, which was pretty freaking low, considering she only lasted 3 seconds longer than Rousey did. But other than that, she took the loss pretty well. So here's the big question. Where does the UFC go from here with the featherweight division? Well, who knows? They could have Nunez fight Anderson. They could do the rematch. Dana White didn't seem too enthused on the rematch, but that doesn't mean much. That's just an initial reaction. It was Cyborg's last fight on her contract, I believe. And here's the thing. Without Cyborg as the champ, what's the point of that division? They didn't grow it any. They barely signed anyone from Tough, if they signed anybody besides Macy Chasen and Panny Kianzad, the 2 finalists. And almost all of them, even Macy, who won, is moving down to bantamweight, or she's going to try to move down to bantamweight. We'll see how that works out. So there's only 2 legit featherweight fighters in that division, Cyborg and Anderson. Cyborg just lost. Anderson's 1-1. First of all, those 2 don't belong in the cage together. Anderson is not good enough to take on Cyborg, I don't think. So most likely Nunez goes back down to bantamweight to defend her title there. So does the UFC dissolve the featherweight division? Well, time will tell. My prediction is they will, unless they sign Cyborg to a contract extension or a new contract. If they do that, then they'll try to keep it around, and they'll eventually get that rematch going. Personally, I'd like to just see it gone. There's no point. It's a farce of a division, really. Come on, guys. There's no point in having a featherweight division that has 2 actual featherweights in it and bloated bantamweights just to take on Cyborg. The whole point that they had that in the first place was for people to take on Cyborg, and that was it. So it's done now. There's no point. So now the big question becomes, who does Nunez face at bantamweight? Well, you have Aspen Ladd versus Holly Holm going down. Possibly the winner of that. I think the rightful next challenger should be Ketlen Vieira. She's been out with injury, unfortunately, and it seems like all the hype around her has died down since then. But I still think she's the rightful next title challenger. So that's it for UFC 235, or 232. One last thing before we go, guys. I want to talk about Rose Namajunas. Have you seen me? She's still missing. It is now 38. No, that was a typo. It is now 39 weeks since her last title defense. And no announcement of the next possible defense made yet. No timeline given. No hard set, saying, well, I'll definitely be ready. The best she gave was a vague response like, well, I'll fight April, May. Just give us a freaking timeline already, Rose. Like, say, well, the doctor said I need this much more time to heal. Because she's apparently injured. She has spinal stenosis. And that's the reason she's not defending. In the meantime, I think that it's possibly time for what do you call it? An interim championship. Now, do I like interim championships? No. Do I think the UFC does it a little too often? Yeah, they've kind of chilled off on it lately, though. Sorry, my sinuses are just killing me. But, the last time a champion sat on title this long and claimed injury, people had already long been complaining and saying that she should be stripped. I'm talking about Nico Montano. Now, granted, Nico was a new champ, hadn't had any defenses yet, blah, 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 and a lot of people just are riding on the Shevchenko bandwagon. They still are. But here's the thing. We have a title challenger ready in Jessica Andras. Now, she says she's willing to wait for Rose. But why should she have to wait that freaking long between fights? She's hungry. She wants to be champ. Why is Rose sitting out this long? Like, how long is this neck injury going to take? I don't know, guys. You tell me. Probably going to get a lot of complaints on this one. That's fine. I like being a little controversial. I just think that I just want some consistency. If we're going to say that a champ needs to be stripped after 6 months or 7 months of no defense and no actual timeline given, then let's do it with Rose too. Let's do it with all of them. I'd like to see some consistency from not only the fans, who are never going to be consistent because they're always going to pick favorites, but the UFC also, who likes to do the same thing. I feel like there's no pressure on Rose at all from them, even though we know there's pressure on Montano. So, guys, that's really all I have for you this week. We'll be back next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll have to check my work schedule and see. Once I find out, I'll put up the notification. Hopefully, we'll be back at Tuesday at the normal time of 9:30. If not, we'll be back Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Until then, not a whole lot going on this weekend. I don't think there's anything going on this weekend. It is a slow time right now because of the new year. But we'll still have a show anyway. I'll figure out something to talk about. Catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching the WMMA Scene Report, episode 13. Guys, have a good night.